So welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be direct sowing some seeds into the ground. So I'm going to be showing you what I'm planting and how I do it to get really great results, and how to protect your seedlings as well from predators. If you've not already subscribed to my channel, if you could please do so, because you'll get lots of helpful hints and tips all throughout the year from my home garden, my allotment, and also my home kitchen. Now today I'm going to be sowing some beetroot. I like sowing the multicoloured variety just because it's more interesting, makes the plate more fun. I think people will get to know me. Everything I sow is multicoloured quite often. I'm going to be sowing some salad bowl, which is a really fantastic, reliable cut and come again lettuces. I find that the slugs don't attack these quite as badly as they do some other varieties. So, you know, again, planting something that's pest resistant is really good. I'll also be planting a little bit of parsley because I eat lots and lots of parsley. I cook with it and I put it in salad. It's a really nice addition if it's not something you use already. And also I'm going to be sowing some carrots as well. So this is a carrot fly resistant variety, so we'll see how we go with that. Again, getting disease resistant varieties are quite handy, along with doing some other things as well. Now, I don't know what the ground's like where you are, but we've had hardly any rain whatsoever. It's been really hard work. I had started digging but could only do a little bit at a time, but fortunately the other day the heavens absolutely opened, which honestly I can't tell you how happy I was, because it's made my life such a lot easier. So what I've done is I've actually dug this over a couple of times to loosen the ground up, because when you're putting root vegetables in they grow down. You know, they're not going to grow into rock, are they? So if it's really hard, your seeds are going to struggle to do anything. So I dug this over a couple of times. I've raked it over so you can see it's almost like a fine tilth. It's not perfect. I look at some allotments and I honestly don't know how they do it, but I've done the best I can do, and that's good enough for me, quite frankly. The next thing to do is I put some markers down. I use these little old decking boards, but you can do some string between two canes. Whatever you do need to mark your line out in some way, otherwise, despite what you think, it's impossible to do a straight line. I've put these little hoops in ready because I cover it, and the main reason I cover it when I initially start to germinate seeds is I find that the birds pick them out, you know, so the cover will not be staying on it permanently. It will just be there until my seeds are at a certain height where I think the birds can be trusted. And I do put a different cover on my carrot fly, which I'll talk about in more detail, to keep the carrot fly off. So everything has been dug, everything has been raked, so now is the time to start sowing. So I have a trowel, which is what I use to do a fine little little trough in the ground to pop those seeds in. To prep, I've already filled my watering cans ready to start planting, so I've got everything I need to get started. So it's not too difficult at all. So quite luckily, when I dug and I raked, my potatoes were next to it, so I was able to do two jobs at once, multitasking at its best. So I raked the top of the soil over onto my potatoes, so that was another job done, which I felt really quite proud of. And so it's worth considering where you plant things so you can multitask like I did. So you just do a fine little trough in the ground like so, with your trowel like that. So if you've got any chunky bits, give them a little bit of a bash with your trowel, because you don't want to be planting seeds on really tough bits. So just a fine little line, not too deep at all. You don't want to be burying them down into the ground really deep. It's not like when you sow potatoes, because you're only going to finally cover them with a little bit of soil as you do this. So let me just do a whole row here. You can see what I mean. Again, if you find any, I've tried to take the stones out, but if you find any large stones or any large bits of earth, either crumble them up. Obviously if it's a stone, take them out of the way. The last thing you want when you're growing root vegetables is lots of stone in the ground. You don't have to be really, don't worry about it too much about little ones, but if you see them, just grab them and get rid of them, because you don't want lots of stones here. I have already gone over, but as you see there was one little stone there, so I'll just get rid of that and stick that to the side. So there we go, so that's a nice little line there, ready to put my first row of seeds in. Now what I do before I put any seeds in, I water it. so that when my seeds go in, they go onto some moist soil, which I find really helps with germination. So I've got the roses on here, but the roses are when you water it after you've put your seeds in, which we'll talk about later. Again, very essential you have a rose for your watering can for when you water them once the seeds are in. So all I do is a little row of water just where I'm going to pop those seeds in, like so. We just take that along there, like that. There we go. That's perfect. I just realised I've missed a little bit there. That's what happens when you're on camera. Missed a little bit of a, you know, I want a whole row of seeds, don't I? I don't want to miss a little bit. Let's take that out and water that as well. This first row are going to be carrots. I'm going to pop in there. So that's nice and moist already. Now you very sparingly sprinkle them across the row with your fingers. Try not to clump them up too much. It's not an easy task. We all sometimes pop a few too many in and then miss a gap, but try and do them as sparingly as possible, and then there's less to thin out if you do them too thickly. I try not to thin mine out because I find that's another thing that alerts the carrot fly to the fact that you've got carrots in the ground. So I try and spread them as thinly as possible, and the way I thin mine out is I wait until they're actually big enough to eat as small carrots, and I thin mine out, and then I don't waste anything. And that's what I try and do. So there we go, just gently sprinkle those in. And you're going to go up to this line here, so that's quite handy. I know where I've got to, so I could do carrot there, and I can do a little row of parsley there. That's pretty perfect, isn't it? So then you just need to cover your seeds up. Now you've got two options here. You can either cover it gently with the soil in your ground, but if you've got really clayey soil and it's going to be really lumpy on the top, then you could put a little sprinkling of multi-purpose over the top. And indeed, when I first got my allotment, and my soil was incredibly clayey and there was no way I could dig enough organic matter in a short space of time, I would do what I've done now, and I would just sprinkle multi-purpose over the top. But today I'm just going to gently sprinkle over the soil. Now you don't want to put too much on. You could rake it over, but I find that if you rake it over, you could rake clumps over, whereas with this, as you can see, look, you can just sprinkle it over and you're more in control of how you cover the seeds, and if there's a lump or something, you can just take it out with your fingers. It really doesn't take long, and in my opinion it's very much worth the effort of just doing this little bit by hand. You've only just raked it, so it's all lovely and soft, so it's easily done, as you can see. There we go. You know, and when you're sowing seeds, as I've said before, you're only covering them roughly with the actual size of the seeds, so you're not burying them down deep. You really don't need to put much soil over these at all to cover them into the ground, like so. So the seeds are all in the ground and I've covered them all. Now don't forget to mark them up so you know what you've sown. I've not put a whole row of lettuce in, only because it's a really good idea to successional sow lettuce because it does bolt. So I've only done a partial row and I've marked up to what I've got to, and I'll put extra lettuce in a few weeks' time. So all that's left to do now is to water. Now when you water seeds in, it's really important that you use a rose, because if you just poured it without it, they would all just splay everywhere. It's a bit like when you do seedlings at home. You can't water underneath with those. So just gently water, and if it doesn't rain over the coming weeks, you must make sure you water these, otherwise they won't germinate. I know it sounds really obvious, but it's something that people sometimes forget to do. So give it a really good water, you know, and hopefully with this lovely warm weather we're experiencing, or at least it is in Kent, these will germinate really quickly, you know, within a week, most of them, with exception of the carrots. which often take a wee bit longer to germinate. But we will see the progress on my further videos. I've just got one more row to water there. I've got 2 watering cans because I think this one's gonna finish now. Like I said, they've both got roses on them. Just get these really nicely watered in to get them off to a good start. Like I say, obviously if it rains then you're fine, but if it doesn't, you do need to keep these well watered. Like so. There we go. Perfect. The only thing I'm going to do in addition to this is, only because I've learnt from experience, when I initially sow my seeds, I do cover them with this scaffolding net. It's incredibly strong and durable. It does the job, so I use this for lots of my plants. You can order it online, and if you want to order some, I will put a link in the description so you can take a look for yourself and order some if you wish to. But I will initially cover all these seeds over these hoops with this, just in case the birds want to have a go at them, or any other animals for that matter. This stuff works really, really well. Once they've come through and they're at a decent size, I will remove it, but my carrots I will then cover with Enviromesh, which I do to keep the cabbage fly away from my carrots. Otherwise I find that I lose my carrots to carrot fly. Now I really hope that this video has been useful and it's going to get you sowing this weekend. I'd love to know what you're doing. Any questions or comments, as always, do put them in there and we will answer them. And please do like, share and comment as much as you can, because the more we share, the more we like, the more people get to learn how to grow beautiful vegetables and fruit.